It's just me practicing on a Sunday morning. Just using one arrow, shoot it, shoot it, retrieve it, and continue that process until I'm tired, in which I can probably shoot about 60 times. These arrows here, which is your Carbon Express Terminators, 55 to 70. I like these a lot. Focus, focus, focus. You don't want to focus. Okay, that's fine. But you're looking at a center mass, in the yellow target. But that's not what's important. Is you see all the other little holes. So I'll just do this real quick. And when you're doing, you know, groups. So I mean that's the size of a human face, and that's what's you're grouping really good. I mean you're not really trying to hit that as much as you're trying to be in this little circle here. And that's what's important, to understand your groups. You'll eventually get it to where you're stacking arrows, and there's methods and styles that will help you do that in thumb ring archery. But I'm using the Deerseeker 60-pound laminated bow here. I got my nocking point. It's 60 pounds at 28 inches. And you come back to pretty much a full draw on a 31-inch arrow with a 350 spine. These things, I just have a regular field point on these right now, which is excellent for doing all the target shooting that you want to do. You never want to use broadheads until you do the hunting, or unless you're doing some type of exhibitionary penetration test, or you want to test penetration on mechanical broadheads. And I've got several different broadheads that are new. I'm going to try those out on the flesh eater targets and see how well they work. But these targets here are not for broadheads. Although once I chew this up, which it will, happen, I'll throw a few broadheads at a wooden arrow that is compromised and see if I split it. People are asking about splitting carbon arrow. They really don't split; they break and splinter and do all that stuff. So it's not really something you want to do with a carbon arrow. It just happens. I've broken several of them, and one, of course, I still have the one arrow point that is embedded in the nock still. I'm gonna get me a little display case for that, because that's really cool. But here is the Deerseeker laminated Turkish horsebow. These are at 60 pounds. Is very, very stout. This bow here, extremely difficult to string if you're a newbie, which I'm not. But with these type of bows and style of shooting, it is fairly new to me. I was normally Mediterranean style or Western style shooter. Now I'm Slavic draw and thumb draw shooting. And if you don't string these right, and the strings are asymmetrically straight on the points here to where the string goes into the little string guide, and they're not straight on there, this will slip off and you will break your string bow, and it will cause a lot of problems. So you got to be real careful. If you had a 30 pound, not much of a problem. 40 pound, 45 maybe. But when you get up in the 60s on bows or heavier, especially on these type of recurve bows that are wooden laminated, of course you got, if you don't see it, you got two outside, probably bamboo, and then an inner core of a wooden collar, which I don't know if you can see this real good. Hang on, I'm gonna see if I can focus in. No, it's down here. You have runoffs in the inner core. Now, that to me, I know this for a fact that this is normally where an arrow or a bow would break. Even an arrow, if you have a runoff in an arrow or any type of wooden anything, and you put pressure on it, it will break. Okay, so I have to keep an eye on this to make sure those cracks don't go into the outer bamboo, or if that is bamboo, because I really don't know the construction of this really well. Composite bow, because it's multiple pieces, because that's like a bone or horn tip piece right there to strengthen the tips, which you have tips on these. So you have tips that are probably about from the bottom of this to the top is about 4 inches, 5 inches, and that denotes in the technology I've studied that you can put a heavier arrowhead on these. So shooting a 295 grain whistling broadhead would be okay on something like this, but the longer the tips, the better, or the heavier the arrow can be as a whole. Uh, so 295 grain tip with a 300 grain arrow makes it about 5 to 600 grains of, you know, force coming off the string, which causes a lot of stress on the limb, which would break the bow faster or wear it down to where this will turn into a 55-pound or a 50-pound bow in the long run, as far as it'll lose strength and energy. I've not waxed the string yet. It's already come pre-waxed. So you look at the, I got the light on the camera. So you look at the string and you see a little bit of a shininess on it. That's the wax that's already on the string. So I'll put some wax on this here later and go from there. So just be warned, not warned, be advised that when going with heavier bows like this, they become tricky in making sure that everything is right about them. You have to have the string on there correctly, or you will run into problems. But they become extremely accurate. I mean, I'm just dotting this entire, softball size circle, if you will. This is probably baseball size almost, the green, or at least the green. And then you get into the outer edge of that to become softball size. And that's pretty much a group that you want to maintain, especially any, 5, 10, 15 yards out to 20. Eventually, by 20, you're going to have the ability to make those groups very, very tight. But today, like in any March in Indiana, the wind is going to dictate how I shoot, where I shoot. So I'm not shooting outside today. Beautiful weather. It's just the trees are rocking back and forth. It'll be a 15 or 20 mile per hour wind gust today, steady 12 mile per hour. And then tomorrow and the next day, very windy and cold. And then we go back up into the warmer temperatures, and then I can go back outside and do better shooting without worrying about my arrow missing the target completely. And that would be no fun at all, because at 20 yards, it's really the distance you want to be shooting at and practicing. So if you can get to that point, because I have only 17 feet to work with, which is a little over 5 yards, but that's good for close quarters shooting and grouping and learning what each bow does. I have several bows and different types of arrows, different weights of arrows, different thicknesses, spines, broadheads, or field points. I have 200 grain field points, 100 grain, and 90 grain field points. So it becomes a work in progress to make sure that you know where each arrow with the bow that you're shooting impacts the target, and you can group nice and have all kinds of good fortune and good luck with uh, archery and the archery sports, and hone those skills that you already have. Everybody has the skill to throw an arrow downrange and make it hit the target and be consistent and have tight groups and be very, very confident in your shooting. And then that's the key. Once you're confident in the bow and the arrow and your style of shooting, whether it be Western, Mediterranean, Slavic, thumb draw, but not the upside down cross draw. And I'll display that in the next video series I'm doing on what kind of draws you're capable of doing without hurting yourself. So we'll be looking for that to happen, and we will be back with more. But always remember, get that confidence in your bow and arrow setup and work it and make things happen for you. We'll see you again.